group. IG.
Assalamu alaikum, peace, it's Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum, peace, it's Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
Give me some time.
The co-wives and co-founders of outstandingpersonalrelationships.com and Outstanding Personal Relationships. And we're gonna give you guys some time to get in the chat and the video and all that other good stuff. And we're gonna reintroduce ourselves for those who are joining us or who will be joining us in a quick second. So yeah, give you guys some time to share, because sharing is caring. Make sure if you're on YouTube, make sure you click like, subscribe, click that notification bell so you get notified when we go live and all that other good stuff. So we're gonna give you guys a few seconds, maybe about 30 seconds to a minute or so, to get in, get settled, because we have an amazing topic that we're going to be talking about very soon. So yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. Yeah, so by the way, just some of the housekeeping rules are, if you have a question, because we're going to be addressing some questions prayerfully today. If you do have a question, then put a bunch of question marks before the question, then go ahead and proceed to ask the question. And we will easily be able to find it that way and be smooth.
Okay. Again, I'm Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum, peace, I'm Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
All right, now you might notice that we are streaming. If you're in Facebook, you're noticing that we're streaming from our Facebook group. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that is because we wanted it to be smaller. All right, we would go and stream from our page, and there'd literally be either dozens of people on a time or maybe a few hundred, and then sometimes some of the videos are well over 10,000, which is amazing. I mean, it's good to see. But one of the things that we found is when it's more intimate or smaller, then more people that have true concerns versus those who are just curious tend to ask more questions and to be more involved, and we prefer that. Really, we like those and prefer those who are sincere. They want to ask some questions, really want to get some answers and stuff like that. And it's a little difficult when there's so many different questions. There are a lot going on in the comments. So we are streaming, at least on Facebook, from our private group, and we also pop in there spontaneously throughout the week, answer different questions and stuff like that. So if you are on IG, we see you, but you can also join our Facebook group. It's a private group that we have. If you need to ask any questions anonymously, you can contact the admins, submit your question to them, and we will work on answering them. That's one of the quickest ways to do it versus going back over email, especially when you get so many of the same questions, or at least elements that are the same for some people. And what I'm doing is I'm actually proving some people for the group right now that have requested and answered all of the questions. So if you are inviting people to the Facebook group, there are basically 3 questions, and you have to answer all of them. All right, they're really simple too. Like, do you currently practice polygyny? That's kind of a yes or no. Why do you want to join the group? That's kind of good to know the reasoning. And what's your email address so we can send you the 5 keys to a fulfilling marriage, especially while in polygyny paper. So, yep, it's a white paper. So, yep, indeed. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Inshallah. Yep, let's jump into it. Since we're broadcasting from our phones in these different areas, we can't use them to read stuff, so I have to use this laptop that I'm looking down at. So if you're here, welcome. Let me get to this front part so I have to make sure we have good discussion.
Let us know where you guys are watching us from. Make sure, of course, you are sharing. Click that like button. Make sure you're following us on our social media so you don't miss when we go live, and a lot of interesting things that we have in store for you guys. And we go in. What we're going to talk about, we talk about deep dive in our RMIC, our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle. Those who are a part of the inner circle, congratulations. Those who are not, make sure you find out more about it. outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship masters. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. So today we're gonna be focusing on masculinity, femininity, and really the roles that it plays in a relationship. So what I'm gonna do though first, should I do it first? Should I read this first or
Yeah,
no?
Talk about this, talk about the, you were talking about, no, he was talking about the beginning of masculine, what's healthy masculinity, what's healthy femininity.
Yes. All right. So we practice polygyny. Not everybody does, obviously. And not everybody necessarily wants to, which is fine. All right. Okay, so here's the deal. When it comes to healthy marriages, one of the things that we recognize as a common trait in healthy marriages is working together. Working together can mean a whole lot of things. We are specifically really discussing and talking about today, which are gender roles, I guess. Gender roles, that'd be a proper term. I don't know if it's necessarily gender roles, but it's masculinity and femininity. So, with that being said, as the man of the family, as an imam of the family, then it's my responsibility to be a leader, period. Regardless, I'm kind of the CEO, if you look at it as a business structure, that chief, executive officer. Now, that doesn't mean, obviously, CEO just doesn't run anything by, in a silo or in some type of vacuum, but you have a team around you. Okay, you have consultants, you have the team, you have the board, you have all these individuals that have their input and everything else, but ultimately the responsibility and the main success or failure of the family is going to lie with the leadership in the family. Okay, so in general,
That's where a lot of blame comes to.
Yeah.
When it falls apart.
yeah, a lot of stuff's gonna rise or fall there, regardless of how you're really handling things, especially when it comes to polygyny. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that's always just the case. The point is that leadership is important, period. Now, again, as Muslims, being the imam of the family, I'm where that leadership lies. As Prophet Islam said, we basically, everyone, we have our flock, if you will. So the shepherd has to do certain things for his family, and then the wife has to do certain things, and the children, everybody has their roles and responsibilities. And many times, sometimes, many times, sometimes all the time, a lot of time, and why we're talking about it today, is the roles really get mixed up. So as a man, I'm a masculine man. Okay, I'm not a feminine man. And we know really what a lot of that means. Feminine are really soft or just really passive and and have these certain characteristics and all that kind of stuff. Again, not necessarily, that's not me. That's not where it's from. That's not what I'm teaching my children, my sons. But as part of my masculinity, also, we all have the X and Y chromosomes within us. We have masculinity, we have also femininity. We have these different things. So when one outweighs the other, or if there are forces that are going against each other, where if I'm some soft, guy just always, and this and that, and just to my wives, they're not going to respect something like that. They're not attracted to that to begin with. Naturally not attracted to that, obviously, because we wouldn't be together. Nevertheless, at the same time, a lot of drama comes when a woman is, instead of embracing her femininity and the power which comes with that, embraces masculinity. Due to, for whatever circumstances, choices, so therefore an argument with a man who's practicing masculinity comes, and now another woman, and challenging him as a man using masculinity to try to make her point, for whatever reasons, that could be a problem and lead to a lot of failure. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're gonna be talking about today. And that's at least my perspective from there, and the ladies have their perspective, of course. So let me hand it off to whoever would like to take it next.
All right, well, okay, couple of things that I want to comment on for the masculinity part. No, I don't want no soft man. However, that doesn't, just because you're a masculine man does not mean that you don't have caring features, I guess I should say. I don't know how to really word it right now, but you still have compassion, you still have that care, you still have those type of things. That doesn't stop you from being a masculine man. So, just want to clear that up. I mean, not that he didn't say that. I'm just saying that, sometimes they're like, well, if I care too much, then I'm soft, or if I'm such and such, so then, so you go from one extreme to the next, where you're either very gruff and hard and whatever, and then, or you're super soft. But it's a balance. And we're gonna also talk about the balance when it comes into relationships. Why the masculine energy is important, why the feminine energy is important, and why it does cause a lot of issues and problems when women take on this masculine role. And I will also include some of my lessons in that, being a person who came from a single parent, not just a single parent household, but a single mother who raised me, who was also raised by a single mother. And, so those different things where it's kind of like, I gotta be and this was the words, I have to be the mom and the dad. I have to be the man and the woman. I have to be these things because in order for my children to get the well-rounded part, I have to be both. I have to play both roles. And that affects not only you as a woman, it actually affects your children because it affected me at a young age and how I viewed relationships and how I got into relationships or had a mindset about relationships before I even got into my first relationship. So yeah, so we will talk about how important it is and how even things in your past can affect, the way or the energy that you put off and bring to your relationships and how to combat that as an adult, as a grown person, as a mature, grown person.
For me, my experience with, my grandparents, who were my parents, not through biology, but my grandparents, was a little bit different than my co-wives. They raised me together all the way to the end, but they did go through a divorce. So I saw my grandmother transform from a very feminine, firm energy to straight up acting like grandma and grandpa, because he was no longer in the house, he got remarried. And that did indeed affect me because now I have to be introduced to this other person that she became. So then that gave confusion in my mind as to, okay, do I act like this version of her or do I act like this version of her or neither one of them? So I saw that she had to take up this role of some bumping in the night. She has to go check it out because there's no one else there to do so. So I saw her grab her pistol, go to the front door, look out the window, things of that nature. So I became very confused because of the divorce of my grandparents. So that gave me this very strong, masculine energy that I didn't start off with. So that's very important that we talk about that as well. I also saw physical abuse in the home. So my grandmother you push her too far, she becomes this other person like anybody else. But because of that, she began not to trust men or not feel safe around men. And that changed her, which changed my life to a certain degree until I said, I'm not gonna change my life because this was her experience. So we'll probably get into that a little bit more too.
So why did this come to play today? Was that the topic of today? We decided, let's talk about feminine energy. Let's talk about masculine energy. Let's talk about that stuff with outstanding personal relationships today on our live. For one, this is the month of self-awareness, knowing where you are in your roles, and the reason why we're saying roles because it's just we are familiar with that term, but knowing where you are in your life and how you inflect your energy on yourself and on others is very important. And we actually had a post that came up, and we had a post that came up. I'm trying to see the post. No, the post. There's a post that came up. I didn't know how to mess around with the computer because it's not mine. So, but there's a post that came up that was really eye-opening because of the comments. It wasn't just because of the post, it was the comments. The post says, I cannot believe the backlash in the comments from the Black women from this statement. The comment was, you either take my last name or there ain't nothing to talk about. No hyphens either. So, I forgot, she actually said, she said something. No, not this. Oh yeah, okay, a lot of it, I know sometimes that would be an issue. Okay, her comment, okay.
Commentary.
Yep. She said this right there, and this right here. This is the root of our issue as Black women. It's why only 35% of us are married, why we have a bad reputation for being bullheaded, independent, attitude, and combative. It isn't because our skin is dark, because we aren't attractive, or because we aren't good enough. As a Black woman, I will admit, we are our own worst enemy, and we blame everyone else for not desiring us, but it's not others, it's us. Listen, when I saw this post, my reaction to the brother's statement was, I know that's right. But then I looked at the comments and they really hurt me. All black women, and every single one said this comment was controlling or aggressive. Then the 2 or 3 Black women who weren't 100% opposed said they had a choice and their husband let them choose. Like they were truly pissed and upset at the statement. Some more stuff. It said a few weeks ago, I put up a post that said, don't be so used to dealing with ban is what we call them. They, yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna say it because I gotta read it. It says, bitch ass that when you come in contact with a real man who takes the lead, you think he's controlling. And this is exactly the type of little girl bird behavior that I was referring to. Yes, when you get married, you take your husband's last name, period. All women of other races know, understand, and actually take pride in this. That's what marriage is all about. It's a legacy merger, and you taking his last name is a sign of submission and allowance to him to lead. Grown woman stuff. So many of them have the audacity to say, well, my degrees say my last name, so I'm not changing it. Yeah, I'm saying it with that because that's what the attitude states. Girl, what? Well, marry your degree then. Tell your degree to hold you at night and protect you. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard. The refusal to submit is what is killing us. It is what really repels good men, because men of value don't play these games. This is our real issue. This masculine mindset is holding us back. This is why feminine Black women who submit are #winning, because no man of any quality is entertaining birds like these. Time to leave them behind with their degrees. So that was her take and her comment on it. And there was just other posts and everything, or other comments about it. So a lot of people would take what is said in his statement about the last name thing. It's like, okay, take the last name. What she stated, what I took from it, what I liked, was that she talked about a legacy merger. And not only is a legacy merger, and I know there are Muslims here that say, well, we're Muslim and we don't have to do that, and we don't have to take the last name, we don't have to do this. Yeah, that's true. We understand what we don't have to do. However, there are a number of things when it comes to trial. It's a number of benefits, but also the legacy merger really sticks to me, because I will always talk about how marriage should be similar to like a business deal, like a business transaction type of thing. And not transaction, that's also bad, but like a business deal, because people want businesses to win. They want their businesses to succeed. They want these different things. But it's so interesting that when it comes to something as marriage, they don't take the time and the energy to be intentional when it comes to what makes a marriage work. And just as Coach Nazir said at the beginning, as far as about CEOs, the CEO and the board and things like that, when you look at things as important, people don't want their businesses to fail. They don't want to have a raggedy leader. And then they also, as being a leader, you don't want people that are, what is it called? Forgot the word, but that's challenging every single thing, that the person who's been through it and who's actually going to have the most to lose, is really difficult. It's difficult to have a marriage that progress, or to have a business that progress, if you're constantly bumping heads all the time. The boards are bumping heads, the leadership is bumping heads, these type of things. So, and a lot of it comes with like a lot of things fail when too many people want to say, well, I'm the leader, I'm the leader, I'm the leader. But a true leader knows when to get people that are better than them and to allow these different things to happen. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent here, so we're going to definitely get back to, you know, this masculine and feminine energy part. But it's those different things where, as I stated before, just because you're a man doesn't mean that, you know, you won't be sensitive to certain subjects and or sensitive to your wives and your children's needs and, you know, things. That's where a lot of the protection does come from, I believe, because how can you protect if you're not, you know, aware and sensitive to what can, you know, what can harm your family and what can, you know, destroy your family. So you got to know what that masculine energy looks like, and you also got to know what that feminine energy looks like as well.
Yeah, to be clear, it's not about that post that she read wasn't even about taking the last name. It was about the thought or mental process behind it, the thinking behind it, of the combativeness, all this extra wanting to fight and reading in and projecting their own thoughts and ideas on what they felt he meant, or he was aggressive or controlling. One, that's just something that happens in general in modern times, and it makes it easier for you, especially when you travel, whether you're Muslim or not. So you Muslim, you keep your father's last name. We know that's what the tradition is, the culture is, which is fine. And then the children have the father's last name, which again, is fine. However, when you travel, especially, you know, going to different Muslim countries, if you have different last names, then you're gonna have to pull out all kind of extra stuff. Like, okay, cool, where's your marriage certificate? Where's this and that, and prove this, and it becomes a lot more challenging. So modern times, it's easy, and especially in polygyny, you know what I'm saying? You're not be, oh, here's my marriage certificate from here, and here's my marriage certificate from there. It's really not gonna work. But nevertheless, regardless, it's not about the name change thing. It's about the mentality behind it and the stereotypes that come from it, being combative or bullheaded, always want to argue, I'm a strong black woman type stuff. And usually, again, that's the defensive part, and taking a more masculine energy because something has happened or what have you in the house. For example, or the quote where, quote, meme, whatever, where it was like, you know, some men don't know how to be men. They recognize not recognizing till 35 years old that they weren't being men, and women are dealing with men, you know, people who are men biologically speaking, not knowing that they're 35 years old, acting just like their mother, because of a real man, a masculine father who was a leader, wasn't in the home. So they're being raised by women and growing up acting just like women. A lot of feminine energy. And again, when I say act like women, that's not an insult. That just means he's not completing each other. So if you have your feminine, you have your masculine, you're supposed to complete each other and come together and cover each other properly. And just like I was describing Quran as garments or clothing for each other. So if you don't have that ability to do so, kind of the yin and the yang look, you know, view-wise, without the philosophy behind it, then there's gonna be some type of imbalance. There's gonna be a challenge. So women snapping off and going and da-da-da, this is what they use, usually their mouth, bad attitude, and men don't really use that. They use the physical part of their testosterone and masculinity. So that can become a problem, clearly. You know, it is a problem. I mean, every 18 seconds, a woman in the US goes into an emergency room with a broken bone or something from domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? You have cops, and they talk about 55 to 60% of police abuse their wives in domestic violence relationships and marriages. I mean, it's so bad that there are stats on this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Okay, so, and again, domestic violence is not only against women. There is a small portion of men, but again, the vast majority of it, looking at that masculine physical energy that comes along with it, not being able to express properly, utilizing your feminine side to be able to be more understanding, more nurturing, and more accommodating. And then at the same time, the flip part goes where now this woman is addressing you like a man, so you treat her like a man. There's an imbalance that's going to cause destruction, and that's what's happening right now. So when I look at the city we currently live in, you're talking about 8 out of 10 households does not have a man there, one, and that's not including that if a man was there, he'd be a good man. You know, what's the point of having some alcoholic or somebody else that's in there that's abusive and something just for the sake that he has, you know, a certain appendage on his body. You know what I'm saying? It's somebody that's going to be leading the family, right? So you're talking about 8 out of 10. So what do we expect from these boys coming up, if you will? And then the girls, and what are they seeing in relationships that their parents are involved, their mother is involved with, in multiple relationships usually. You know, so all of these things matter, and why it matters so much is when you look at it, if you look at human beings and us as Muslims, the very first relationship that came was not a father and a son, father and daughter. Nope, the very first relationship was Adam and Hawa. So that was a marriage. That was the very first part. And from that, obviously came family. From family came community, then society, and tribes, and states, and nations, and we could look at it as counties, municipalities, and cities, and countries, and so on and so forth. But it starts that nuclear, that natural nuclear family of a man, XY, and a woman, XX, as their sex. Now, I'm being clear because we don't need the gender fluidity confusion discussion. It's not talking about gender, we talk about sex and what your DNA will always be, no matter if you want to change it in one way or another. That's clear. Natural, normal, nuclear family. And this relationship, if that's destroyed, everything else falls, right? So now we can see why that's Shaitan's biggest, happiest deed when that happens within the family. So we have to address it from this point of the base part of the masculinity and femininity and its importance. What are some of the strengths of the feminine woman? Because the lady who posted it, she teaches on femininity and stuff like that, and really finding yourself as a woman and understanding that power that comes with that. So what would you say some of the positives are? And also, Assalamu alaikum, I don't know the name, WISS up in Canada, we see you, giving salam. So let us know where you're chiming in from, what city, state, country. We appreciate that and checking in with us. And again, if you have any questions, post any question marks ahead of your questions as we proceed.
I think, the nice part about being a Northerner is that I was raised by Southerners, and all three of us have people from the South in our families.
And we're talking about the U.S.
The U.S.
So northern U.S., southern U.S.
Yes. And
Confederate type stuff.
wait a
For
minute.
those who don't know.
I didn't see the wisdom in that as a youth, but now I see the strength. And I'm not saying that people from the North are not strong, but it's a different type of strength. I saw my grandmother hustle, and she could multitask, and she could talk to anybody, and she did so much. She worked very, very hard. So one of the things that I admired about her is her ability as a strong woman to multitask. She could be at work, call us and tell us this needs to be put in the oven, or this needs to be taken to here or there. And I loved her resilience, to fight back or to stand firm, or to have this courage or this fearlessness or this drive. She was extremely driven. And I think what's so beautiful about women, those of us that have especially brought forth life, or mothered, but bringing forth life for me personally was 7 times over the strongest that I've seen myself be, is having children. I'm saying personally because I said I'm not gonna have any kids. So I don't have to worry about bringing forth life. This is where the challenging of Allah comes in. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I was not Muslim at the time. But I said it because I didn't think I had the mental or physical strength to do it. And so I found the wisdom, and I think sometimes we try to search for, well, why does Allah say the man is in charge? Well, why? Where's the wisdom in that? You don't have to look for the wisdom, it just is wise. So yesterday I was talking to our oldest son about, he didn't listen, and I closed the door to the room, and it was just my son and myself, and I said, I came before you, and there's wisdom in that. So I'm your mother. I'm here first. I'm your mother, which means I have a right to tell you to do a thing, even if it is what I told you to do, like changing your t-shirt because the collar has been out of it. Something so little and easy to do. He didn't want to change his shirt. He was going to change it, or else he wouldn't have made it to the front door. He knows me. But I said, but when you have your children, you'll have rights over them, and they will have rights over you. But what we won't do is disregard the fact that I'm your mother and I was born before you, and Allah says, I have this right to tell you something, and you don't get to say anything after. You don't even get to make a noise. I don't need to look for the wisdom in that. It just is wise. So I brought up you, his father, our husband. I said, I'm older than him by a year. And my kids told me, why does he get to tell you if you can go out of the state? I don't understand, you're older. And I said, because Allah gave him the right. The wisdom had to be found for me as a young wife. I don't want him to tell me, I should just be able to just go. How is that wise? Because if something happens, if I need assistance, if somebody wants to harm me, and we know as Black women, we're in a country where we're not safe or protected by law enforcement, doctors, or anything like that. I said it is wise because Allah gave him the right to say, I don't think it's safe for you to do that after 8 o'clock at night. You're not going to Illinois anywhere else after 8 o'clock at night. And he can say that. So I don't need to check and dig and try to figure out why does he get the right to do it and I can't do it to him. Allah gave it already. So it doesn't need to be found, or it doesn't need to be, you don't need this blowback from what Allah tells you you can do, or as a woman, or what your husband can do as a husband. You know, I didn't get married to a woman. I got married to a man on purpose.
That's right.
Period. That don't mean I always agree with him, but I'm not gonna strip rights. I don't want him to strip my rights, and I'm not stripping his. That's just, it is what it is for me. And that's all I say to women. Say all that to say.
But yeah, that's interesting too, because I like what you said about you know, the wisdom. I always think about that, about it being wisdom of anything because of this. No, like seriously, as I stated before, I was like, you know, was raised by a single mom who was raised by a single mom, you know, and they from the South, and they not only single parents, but single mothers, they oldest. Well, technically my grandmother is not the oldest, she's a twin, and my great aunt came first, even though they want to fight behind that, but anyway, my mom was really the oldest. However, I digress. But seeing that type of thing did shape me in the point of like, what is his purpose? What's for me?
Yeah.
Like what, like I can do this, I can do that. What I need him for? To the point, when I was 14 years old, I remember what age I was. I asked my mother, can I just have, can I just have a child and kick the man to the curb? Like that was literally what I asked her. And she was like, I guess you could, but I don't know why you would want to do that. Well, that's what I saw. That's what I was raised in a single parent, a home with a single mom. I would kick him to the curb. Kick him to the curb, yes. Because I was like, what is his purpose? Like, except for to give me a child and go about your merry old way, type of thing. But that's the part when we talk about not having this strong masculinity, this strong masculine energy, this proper masculine energy, and it definitely affects girls. They think that, yeah, it affects your girls and your boys. But let me tell you, men who are watching, how this stuff affects your girls, because they grow up in a number of different ways. They grow up trying to find this masculine energy or find this energy, or they don't grow up thinking that this man ain't gonna do a thing or whatever. And like I used to say, serve your purpose. And this goes before Islam and before I had some guidance and some proper guidance, where it's like, okay, what do I need you to serve for me? And that's what you're gonna do, and go about your merry way. It took growing up, it took being in personal development, it took Islam, it took these different things where I saw that I actually wanted, naturally, like the natural part, naturally I wanted companionship. Naturally I wanted to be married. Naturally I wanted these things, but because I didn't see anything like that in my childhood and into my young life growing up, it's like, okay, well, this don't exist. That's, that's not just fairy tale, but that's just, theory type stuff. But I know that that's something that I wanted, but I didn't know how to have it. But then got to the point where seeing that women are very, very powerful, and I get upset when women try to compare themselves with men. Say, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Because, and to me, it takes away your natural power as a woman. That balance that you were talking about earlier, it makes me think about when it comes to discussions, when it comes to coming to a man like a woman, where you can get the man to understand and see it in a different way. Instead of when you come to a man like a man, how he's ready to respond as a man. When you come as a woman, he softens up and understands a little bit more. I remember, and this is horrible, like we were talking about this abusive stuff in the streets. This man was fighting this woman, and it was in front of our boys and everything like that. And I'm like, this can't happen. So I went out there, because I'm like, if my boys went out there and to try to, you know, stop this man from hitting on this woman, because they're younger, they're not their dad. So, you know, if they're going to come out, you know, if they come out there, this man is going to try to, you know, fight them or whatever the case may be. That's all I saw in my head. So I went, he totally backed off and was like, sister, you don't understand. Sister, it was a totally different scenario with me coming towards him and coming to him, say, you know what, hey, let's try to figure this out. But what's not going to happen right now is you're not going to hit on her and fight her, especially in front of my kids. That's not going to happen. And it was just different stuff, but it was the way he responded to me as a woman, me as a Muslim woman, as me as a woman, me with the feminine energy, that it was like, okay, you know what? All right, but this is what happened. And trying to explain to me, person he don't even know, you know, what was going on. So it's that thing that we have this power, and that balance is an amazing balance that, you know, that also is needed in the household, or that's at least needed in the family structure, because there are people that co-parent, you know, with the father not in the home and things as far as that, and they co-parent well. A friend of mine, she's a single mom, but she's a single mom because she's not with anybody or with the child's father, but they co-parent their daughter, and she gets the love and support and everything from both parents. She gets that masculine energy from her father, decide that she needs that part, and she gets that feminine from her mom, and her mom don't have to be both. So, something I don't say, but that was kind of where.
We're going to some how-tos in a second, but there was a quick question from IG. I forgot the name, Ty something. I think it's one of our Hebrew brothers. He asked, or sisters, I don't know. I didn't catch the whole name. Nevertheless, as basically, is it better to research polygyny before getting involved or joining a family? So maybe it was one of the ladies, I don't know. But my take is it's best to research it, understand it, and know what you're getting into first, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe behind it, really understanding what your rights are and what your responsibilities are as well. And take into account what we're talking about today, with your masculine and feminine energy, because when it's time to argue, there should be some rules with arguing. Because the last thing you want to do is have something that lasts a long time, because those internal scars you don't see, but they could be just as damaging, if not more, lasting than physical scars. So researching polygyny, in my opinion, versus just joining the family. I mean, again, it's totally up to you, but you really need to know what it is, why it is, why you want to be part of it, and whatnot, and just to really just get an overall understanding, even if you don't want to be a part of it, or it's not necessarily part of your life, you're single right now, just knowing and having that knowledge and comfortability, understanding other cultures is very, very important. And that goes into another question. And then I think my peach pineapple sweet asked us to share this, or save it as a story, because she's in between clients. So sis, that's the plan. That's the plan. We don't plan to say go over an hour, but yeah, we do plan to save it, so you can go ahead and check it out. Then there's some question for you too. There's a comment that was made that was shared in our private Facebook group. And a couple of you are watching my private Facebook group. Word to you, because we're not streaming this on our page. Again, we like it to be more intimate, ask different questions and whatnot. But sister shared a post by Morris Blackman, who said, the more sexual partners a woman has had takes away from her ability to be feminine. It makes it harder for her to submit to a man. And there were a lot of different comments, regarding it, and people project their beliefs and so on and so forth. So it was really interesting. But the person who posted it, she said that post has nothing to do with devout and righteous Muslim women, nothing to do with devout and righteous revert women to Islam, as Allah forgives all sins upon the Shahada, and nothing to do with even decent non-Muslim women, in so many words. She understands that sometimes it can be difficult understanding which a person doesn't fully comprehend, but why not at least try? So her point is, try to at least see something from other than your perspective, basically. And she stated that in other groups that she's a part of, she noticed that some promiscuous women, based on their background and current state, are bashing virgin women, saying that they are willing to submit to a man husband simply because they're inexperienced with men and don't know any better. And then some women who are experienced with several men, unmarried, either before Islam, during, or if they're married now, seem to have issues with the idea of submitting to their husbands according to the Sharia. Some were in a position where they have no choice of being a breadwinner, raising a family on their own, being independent, or for so long and locked in their ways, have issue with submitting. Part of a woman's femininity in Islam, if she's educated in her deen, wise, and has self-love, is to obey her husband. Sometimes one has to look deeper just a little without jumping to conclusions. So whether or not you disagree with your prerogative, if you can try to see things from a different view, it helps in understanding. So that was, a good explanation. Now here's the other part that still needs to be discussed, because we really haven't touched on it yet, is that the man needs to be a man. All right. This is not something where you're in an abusive relationship, somebody's out there drinking, beating you up, and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and bringing home, STDs and all kind of crazy stuff. And you're like, well, submit, I need to submit to this person. No, it's not talking about boom or oppression. All right. You still need to be a man. And we talk about the masculine energy when we talk about talk. And there's this term called king talk. When you're talking king talk or dealing with your family and dealing with these different things, you're aspiring to be that king because you have people to protect and things to look at and have a farther vision and all of this stuff. This is expected of a man. And when I say man, again, man is general, biologically speaking. Once you're puberty, you're a man. But we know we say real man and all that type of stuff. So we like to use the word kings more because that holds you to a higher standard, period. And that's easily understood from that point. Did you have anything to say on that comment?
I agree.
And then we're gonna jump to Matt and Yasmin on
that's part. I agree with that because
agree with the original statement.
With the original statement about the more partners or whatever, because I've seen that in the past. Just because I saw something that was talking about how it talking about the energy, with the sexual partners and different things like that. So that was kind of interesting because it popped in my head. However, it's these different things. Like I said, I wasn't the only person that said certain things like serve your purpose. Like my thing came from what I seen, but I've known that it was other women that I knew that were like, okay, well, this one does this and this one does this and this one, and it does. When you are at a place where you say, okay, well, this is what you do, and you let them know like this is the purpose you serve, it takes away from the softness of you as a woman, and it takes away that submissiveness, because you're like, okay, I tell these men what to do. It's like, what I'm saying? So it's this thing like, this is what you do, and this is how you, serve your purpose in my life. And you can go, and make me think of Independent Woman by Destiny's Child or whatever. It's a verse in there where she say, only ring your celly when I'm feeling lonely. When it's all over, please get up and leave. And so it's these things that this is what's been ingrained in the heads and the minds of these women, that you're starting to see that they're losing this energy, this feminine energy, and they're, they want to be savage, they want to be ratchet, they want to be this stuff, where it's like, who is really looking for that in a fulfilling relationship, in a fulfilling marriage? Who's looking for those type of things? So when it comes down to it, and no personal thing is that where I had to realize some stuff is saying we are not perfect. Of course we not. We know that. We have some issues. But this week I had just my energy was not as feminine as this should have been. I came into a meeting that we had between my husband and my co-wife, our husband and my co-wife, and I wanted to apologize on the air, and I apologize in front of my co-wife.
She doesn't.
Because what happened was I had a rough day and everything I do. That's why we got to be careful of how we speak and be self-aware. And I came in because it was some last minute stuff. Well, it was last minute to me, and the way I presented it was not in a proper fashion. The energy was bad, and I can attest that my energy was bad. And I wanted to apologize for the bad energy, because the energy was good when I walked in the room because my co-wife was laughing. So, but when I walked in the room,
growling,
it was not, good. And so, I was to apologize for that. But that's the thing, when I was able, I said, what I should have did was take a break, decompress, and then it could have been said in a different way. Now I still felt my way that I felt, but the way I came about it should have been better. And because of the way I came about it, which could have been a masculine-ish type of way, he was not responsive to that. And he would not be responsive to that. But when I came at it in a different fashion, in my normal feminine fashion, it was like, yeah, okay, I get it. However, we need to be better with this communication part. And that's that part. We got to know our roles in, the masculine and feminine energy, and the energy that we are putting off in our relationships to be fulfilling. It's not about, people think being submissive means that, and then people think that being submissive means that you don't have your own mind, that you don't have your own thoughts, that you don't have these, nothing, that you don't know your worth. It's not about that. It's about being able to say, you know what, I'm gonna take a step back, take the lead, let this person take the lead, because this is their natural thing. This is what is naturally given to them. Yes, I'm going to be able to make my comments. Yes, we can be able to speak and come to a meeting of the minds. But if we don't come together, if I'm disrespecting this person and demeaning them in their leadership, how do I expect them to listen to me when I'm coming to them in my feminine way? If I'm sitting there, if I'm not giving them their right, in their masculine way, I guess it doesn't make any sense.
And you're working for the same goal. That's the point.
Hopefully.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You should be working for the same goal.
Exactly.
It's not always the case.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So that.
Want to talk about that?
I don't even, so I'm kind of disappointed at some of the comments. I was out of town yesterday and my daughter was in the passenger seat, so she read some of the comments from social media. She was triggered, and she was focused on the submission thing. I think we have issues with these words, submission and share, and we need to unlearn what we previously learned about what the English dictionary dictates that those words mean in our lives as Muslim people. I'm Muslim. I speak from that place first, and always. So share and submit have taken on these negative definitions, and we can look up different words in the dictionary, and you can see the positive side of the word or the negative side of the word. You pick how you want to take things. Mm-hmm. So if you take submit as something negative, then that's on you. So if this person loves you and they're your husband and they're not being a tyrant toward you, and they want you, they might even, they can, as Muslim men, they could say, you're supposed to submit to what I'm telling you that you need to do for the greater good of our family or health or whatever the case may be. Like I said, if they want to, for example, say, you know what, you don't travel, after Maghrib. Well, I don't understand why I don't travel after Maghrib. I'm grown and I got a mama and a daddy, and you ain't my mama and you ain't my daddy. Why all of that? So think about it. Have some productive thinking and use your critical thinking and go, okay, you don't have to say this to him. What may be the cause as to why he said that? Does he want to control me or keep the killer from getting me? You choose how you want to receive that information.
Right.
Now, if you want to be a jerk and go, well, he don't tell me what to do, I'm wrong. You're going to have a problem in your marriage.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you that right now. I promise you will. And you probably won't have a husband for long if you keep that up.
Or stay single.
Or stay single. So if you're going to make somebody else miserable because you don't want to work together, or you want to strip someone of their rights, do that. Stay by yourself, because that's where you're going to be, miserable and single.
Mm-hmm. And as a man of value, start using that. Man of value.
Man of value, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because as a man,
that sounds like a Denzel Washington movie.
Value. You know what I'm saying? Like a man of value, you value that. It's not time to. I was raised up 80s, 90s hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So I go back to, and I remember this, and I was like 8 years old, I think. But I remember KRS saying, the girls look so good, but their brain is not ready.
I was like, excuse me?
I'd rather talk to a woman because her mind is more steady. So here we go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it made me think at that point. I'm telling you, you can get inspiration, you can get a whole lot of stuff. But I remember, like, yeah, the girls, okay, cool, the girls look so. But what is this woman he's talking about? I don't know. I was like 8 years old, right? But I remember that line, like, yo, there's a difference here. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, men of value don't have time to teach women. A woman is supposed to be grown. You don't necessarily have time. If you're younger, you might have time. We don't have that time where we are in life right now. But it's not time to go and teach some basic etiquettes and try to go ahead and fix stuff when you have to work on yourself first. Because when you notice, when you work on you, you make yourself better for everybody else. So like when Coach Fatimah was saying, you determine how you give that word, what she's saying basically is you give that word meaning. So submission, I mean, as Muslims, that's what Islam means. Submission, submit to Allah. No matter what I may feel, we love independence. We get caught up on this independence stuff where we make ourselves into gods. All right, that's ridiculous. So we're so independent. We wanted independence since when we were in the womb. All right, and if you're a parent, you know that elbows moving, everything going, and you break somebody in half to come into the world. You know what I'm saying? So right, y'all know.
Our daughter 18th birthday today.
Indeed. You know, so kids shouldn't even be celebrated. Should be the parent get celebrated over and over when they gave birth.
It should be the mother celebrate, not the father.
So, but we deposited there. Nevertheless, with that being said, we want this independence. That's normal, that's natural throughout life. Like our children, we can help raise the children, give them nurturing and guidance, but they are their own people, just like we are our own people, and couldn't care less one way or the other. If my mother gives me advice one way or not, I'm gonna make my own decision. So they are a trust for us. They come through us, but they don't belong to us, just like spouses. So the meaning we give to words, the meaning we give to these things dictates what we think and our projection. So if you have a problem with submitting, well, you really shouldn't, because some things you need to submit to. You might not like gravity, but you're going to submit to his rules. Go try to jump off a second floor. I don't care about gravity. I'm not going to submit to that. Boom. It's going to happen.
Break every bone.
You know, and some people need to, but yeah, it is what it is. Nevertheless, just show me some of these questions, because we don't, prayerfully got some good stuff there. One of the things, though, you got a resource, but the one of the books that you're reading right now, we're going to be going into that. And another one I'll suggest really quick, a great book is Winning with People. Right there. And another Winning with People, John Maxwell, in the book Influenced by, I think that's Robert Cialdini. Influence. Right. Really good book. In the book you were going to mention, and then I'm going to talk. We got several questions.
Argument-free marriage. This is called, this really simple, simple book. It's called The Argument-Free Marriage. And it's by Fawn Weaver. She actually did a TED Talk too. Actually, I want to say it's probably what her TED Talk was called as well. And she actually has another book called Happy Wives Club. But yeah, the thing is called the Argument-Free Marriage. Amazing book, because she gives some really good insight. Her husband Keith also actually does a chapter, at least one chapter in the book on what he called rules of engagement, which is super cool that he called it that. But it's like how to communicate, with each other. And they talk about that energy, talk about this energy that you give off to one another. And but it's good.
These questions.
Yeah, well, you're looking for some.
And I suggest that you all pick up The Bent Rib. I just started reading it again. It's a really good book for the Muslim and the non-Muslim. Check that book out. Take some notes. It's a pretty small book. You'll make it through it. It's not Harry Potter or anything, but definitely pick that book up. Picked it up again yesterday and started reading it.
Peace, Queen. How you be? So, hey, lovely family. Have you ever considered leaving the U.S.?
Every day.
Every single day.
Well, let me answer it like this.
Years.
Since countries have closed, they closed the door. They didn't put the not open for business sign right now. They closed. Then since we're sitting in the hotbed of Trumpism, COVID nation, there's some challenges with that. But in answer to your question, absolutely. Yasmin says, Salam, just finished watching your video and I thought it was great. Coach Nazir, you mentioned resentment in the video. My second question is, the man starts resenting his wife, and doesn't that mean something's lacking?
Touch on that too.
Isn't deep resentment that will lead the relationship to fall apart a sign that the relationship lacks a strong foundation? In answer to your question, the man starts resenting his wife, yes, isn't deep resentment that will lead to the fall apart of the relationship lacks a strong foundation? Yes and no. When I talk about in the video that the man, when they ask you the question, like, should I get another wife or should I do blah, blah, and I put I have to balance whether or not it's important enough for this marriage to either dissolve and fall apart, or important enough to go through it in either way, or to live with the resentment that may come with it. All right, that's the man's decision. He's gonna have to make that decision, period. So you can have a strong foundation prior to and not know that that's actually an issue. So if you were having same goals and everything for your family, but now all of a sudden you say, okay, well, not all of a sudden, you develop, you say, okay, I think I want to practice polygyny at a certain point in my life or what have you, and I'm considering this, and now your goals are no longer the same. You're saying, listen, I'm qualified to do such, and so on and so forth. You evaluate yourself and say you're seriously considering doing something that is allowed for you and something that's actually very noble, again, for men of value to practice, and now that person doesn't do it, that exposes a crack in the foundation now. That exposes, some challenges. Now that doesn't mean, and it's highly unlikely, she's gonna be like, I couldn't wait for you to say that. Yeah, let's go ahead. I've been waiting for you to say that, so let me go ahead and split this time up and do this and da-da-da. Yeah, that's gonna be unlikely, all right, that she'll be just, gung-ho for that. And there may be an emotional backlash and reaction and lots of things that go, but it's for the man to decide whether or not that's there. Now the challenge comes with, either he's gonna say, okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and give that up and, I'll be here and I'm cool. No problem, that's okay. All right, or this may cause a problem, like, whoa, I want to do this, I know it's right, I have this desire to do such a thing, so on, and that just grows and festers over time. Yeah, that will cause an absolute problem in the foundation over here, because no matter what and how good it is, you still thinking this person that I'm with, that I love, that she knows I take care of, still didn't support me in something I want to do, but she may have been supported you and you supported her and each other's biggest cheerleaders, but with this one thing, that done struck a nerve. So yeah, that can definitely lead to that big resentment, and it falls apart anyway, whether it's over 5 years or 15 years or whatever. That can actually happen. I mean, we're talking about humans here. There's no yes or no or black or white with it. So yeah, that can happen, but it could also happen where it's like, you know what? Hey, I value that. I'm not gonna go ahead and do that. It was a thought that I had, and I'm cool. So we just gonna continue being monogamous, and it's fine. So again, it goes into evaluating that. Does that mean that it lacked a strong foundation? Not necessarily. It just means people have different goals, and they're standing firm on it. Either way, there's no right or wrong with it, but that doesn't mean that the foundation wasn't strong, because if he wants to do something, she doesn't want to do it. We're all independent. We don't agree on every single thing. Listen, and I mentioned this to somebody the other day. We got a gift. Someone sent us a gift from IG, right? It's a picture, stuff like that. It's a picture. And he sent the picture as a guy, and he had 2 women with him, assuming, he doesn't say what it is, but it looks like it's polygyny. He talks about polygyny and different stuff on his page. All right. Now, they were like, well, do you support him in his work and this and this and that? First of all, and I responded, look, we're not so arrogant enough not to at least be grateful for a gift. The gift was fine. It is what it is. But he's not Muslim. He has a whole different code of conduct and everything for his life. We don't support things that go, we Muslims. So we're not supporting nothing to go against Islam. We didn't buy it. It was a gift, and we're grateful for the gift. That's what it is. So, the person was a little judgy and stuff with it. It is what it is. She can have her opinion. That's fine.
And that's what she wanted to be.
So, I mean, that's it. That doesn't mean I don't agree with my mother 100%, never did. And there's no living person I agree with 100%. The last person that I would agree with 100% died over 1,400 years ago. They slept with Islam. So that's important to understand. And we're humans. We all make mistakes. If I can look back at myself, I don't agree with myself from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago. Or you know what I'm saying? So we're human. We all make mistakes and stuff like that. So that's okay. That's just, we really have to understand that we're on this process and this growth journey. Just like the brother who sent us a gift is on his own journey, and we can have dialogue, and we've had dialogue, and we've disagreed on certain terms and topics, whether it's polygyny, polyamory, and so on. So we've had that discussion. And I reach out to people. I'm not ashamed. I'm unapologetic about being Muslim, about being black, about being a black Muslim. You know what I'm saying? What we do in polygyny, it is what it is. So, a person can judge and make all kind of decisions, put in boxes, whatever way they want to do it. But again, we are our own individuals. So knowing that does not mean you can have a strong foundation at the same time working with each other.
I have something to say about the resentment part, because like I said, my daughter was with me, and it makes it sound that when he said, living with resentment, first of all, I think wives need to know if their husband feels that way, because they could be resenting the whole thing and not the wife have no idea, which was in many cases. But I think if husbands want to say they want to practice polygyny or have any kind of hard conversation or talk about, I'm starting to feel some type of what looks like resentment, that's what I feel, they need to be able to say that, and they should be allowed to do that too. So it's twofold. And we have to get out of this thinking of that people can't change their minds along the way or evolve into someone else, because they can. And we have to look, the 19-year-old husband is not the 44-year-old husband of today. They changed. That doesn't mean it's a bad change, but it is a change. I'm not the same person I was. My co-wife isn't the same person she was. So we're just gonna keep evolving over and over again. So, we're all different from where we were 19 and 20 years old. So it's unrealistic to think you're gonna have the same exact husband the whole way through. All types of things will start changing.
I was trying to become a man of value. I had to learn it because I didn't have those men in my life that really were about really. My father was one of the perfect examples of what not to be. And I'm so glad, and I was so surprised that he eventually had become a Muslim. He saw something change in me because I was out there bad. I was a savage. I was the one that said by the time you're 21, you'd be locked up and dead. So a lot of things I did, he saw this massive shift and change. But even before that, though, the fitra, or the natural disposition that I had as a child, for example, loyalty. Loyalty is important to me. It's been important to me. The first time I could see that loyalty was important to me was the first time I was betrayed. The first time I was betrayed was by my parents. Teach me about Santa Claus. And I held it in like, Santa Claus ain't real. I think my auntie or somebody spilled the beans and was like, it ain't true, blah, blah, blah. That's the type of aunties I have on my Puerto Rican side. So it was like, yo, that ain't real. So I'm like, what? No. I was betrayed at 5. I didn't know how to express it, but loyalty was very important to me. I remember driving with my father, and he had like a Thunderbird, Firebird back in the 80s. Like 81, 80. Yeah, it had to be like 81, 5 years old, right? They was the bomb back then. It had like a T-top, the Firebird on the engine, on the hood. So he was the man, green eyes and all this stuff. So the ladies was loving him. Anyway, he picked up some lady, gave her a ride. Soon as I got in the house, I'm sitting in the back seat. Soon as I got in the house, before I took my book bag off, my mother was in the kitchen. Mama, Daddy, had a woman in the car.
Snitch bag.
I snitched like a mug. I didn't say anything about to him at all. I don't know who it was, whatever. All I know was it wasn't my mom. And I'm loyal to my mother. So I snitched. And then he was like, he looked at me like,
it was all your fault.
He gave me that look. But loyalty has been important to me ever since then. So with that being said, the way I came up, loyalty was important. Betrayal in a number of different things, in respect and discipline. So there were certain core features, and I wasn't interested in Islam. So I'm not going to go into that whole story. I talk about it before, but the point is now, in my marriages, to be, when it comes to submissive or what have you, they use their feminine energy a lot of times to influence my thinking. Sometimes I recognize it later. It is good manipulation, because manipulation is just manipulation. It's neutral. Damn. It can be good manipulation. Like, if I need to go, I'll give you an example.
Let's
get it. So I'm eating, right? And I work, and I'm more like this, and not getting up, so I'm gaining weight. And I'm like, oh, you're just trying to fatten me up just so that nobody want me. That's my little joke. But it ain't good, because guess what? Every inch above, a certain amount on your waist increases your chance for heart disease, diabetes, and all kind of stuff. So, if it's like, that shirt don't, you might be might need to get you a little bigger shirt. This is a sweet way of being like, dude, you need to do something about this.
Or some bigger.
This weight, right? That's for my betterment. But that's a good manipulation using their ways, because they know I'm like, I want to try to be attractive. I don't want to be the dude that's, I just got a fresh beard because my mirror only covered this. I need to try to work on my entire body, my health, all this type of stuff. So that's good manipulation and good encouragement using their femininity. All right, they want to have a good looking husband, right? So I need to know that. That type of stuff is fine, versus the negative manipulation type way, I don't know this or that, or time, why don't you just stay with me a little longer? And they don't know. You know why? Because they fear Allah. You know what I'm saying? If there's pillars in a house and you could change rooms, add windows, knock a wall down, but you know what? There's some weight-bearing pillars. If you mess with this one, the house gonna crumble. So that right there, the fear of Allah, that's what's most important in our relationship. So that pillar can't be messed with. We're not gonna do something and now you gotta disobey Allah or do something else. That pillar don't matter about me, you, anybody else, because that's the pillar, that's whom we all belong to and we all gonna return to. So if I'm concerned about that pillar more than anything else, then I can be able to work on other parts of my house and change stuff and get better, if that makes sense.
All that makes sense. All that.
We have another question, but were you gonna speak on that?
I don't remember.
We're just gonna get you together on the manipulation.
Yeah, manipulation. Good manipulation. It's
You
important.
made us look good at the end, so that's perfect.
That was that nice little saying.
Hold up.
No, it's real. You know, I mean, it's normal. We know what motivates our spouses. They know what motivates us, and if they love us and care for us and have the same goal, they're gonna be nudging us in the right direction that we said we want to do anyway. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Exactly. Now, what are the examples? Okay, I followed you said yesterday, like where you go, I may Allah bless you in your marriage. I mean, it's a weird question. Maybe see the second message. All right. How do you coach Sister Fatimah feel herself when you, as a husband, came with the second wife subject? Well,
wait a minute. I'm gonna answer it first.
go ahead.
He didn't come to me with it, but I'm not stupid. Like, I'm not stupid. So he would toss it around loosely, and it just made sense to me because then I have all my friends' husbands tossing it around loosely to them. So then I had to go, he's no different than them. And if he's Muslim, and if I was a man, which I'm glad I'm not, I'm glad I'm a woman and a woman's girl. Come on, femininity. I said to myself, we tell ourselves the truth when we're inside of our own head in our like really quiet moments. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, man, if I was a man and I was Muslim, I'd want to get another wife, even if it was just one. I would want to experience that expansion of family. But because I'm a woman and I'm a wife, it hits different when you tell yourself that truth, because that requires a splitting that happens that you're not used to. So I would strongly tell brothers that oftentimes your wives are afraid of polygyny because they don't know the rules of polygyny or the ins and outs. So if you explain to them, we should learn about those things in Islam that don't even pertain to us at the time. Because I was around women that knew more about polygyny than me that weren't even married because they studied it. They were able to help me. So if I had to learn about it prior to that, I could help myself. So let's understand that it's okay if the husband wants to do that. And I think we shouldn't set ourselves up as women and go, well, he won't do that. You don't know what he'll do or not do, or want to change his mind, or who he'll want to evolve into. So I think if we stop setting ourselves up, this will not be as difficult. And I said what I said.
Indeed. So to answer it, one, I got married first and then came to it. That is not the best practice to do, and we don't encourage people to do that. There may be times and places for it, but it'd have been better to try to deal with it in advance. I didn't do that, so I accept that, and we've had to deal with growing through that as well. So there are different ways to handle different situations. So we went through that way, which is again is not the best route, but it was negative, it was an emotion, it was a roller coaster, it was all of that stuff. It was garbage. So what you're seeing, and I'm telling you, right now, being married in polygyny 10 years, we look at a chapter per year, you're looking at chapter 10 right now. But going through chapter 1 through 5 and seeing a lot of this stuff to get to this point, you know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be on YouTube, it wouldn't be this type of video if we were on YouTube. So I'm just saying, just to be clear, it's not something easy in the beginning. Regardless, there are some people who are even accepting of it. They might help their husband find another wife and everything else. But as it gets closer to date, there's usually going to be a fire or some issues. At least with you starting the journey of polygyny with a second wife. Maybe different with a third or a fourth, but just
And we have children, so quickly, it's not just about me. So best practice would be to talk, because then you have, 2 teenagers, and then you got 2 smaller daughters and they're all 4 very upset, and then you don't know what to say. It's not just something that happens to the individuals within the marriage. It does affect children and extended, family as well. So I don't want you all to mistake it and just make it about what happened with Fatimah at this point. No, it happened to many people, especially our children. So, if you could take away what Coach Nazir said and have a conversation, and ladies, please, it's not easy, but please allow that to happen.
All right, continuing. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zaina, I'm Philly, represent. Good to see you, sis. Cowives, hi. Hey. Okay. Remember, if you have any questions, if you put the question marks in front of it, it make it easier for us to find. Inshallah. So, I'm trying to see if there's any questions that are hidden in here without it. As someone who hated polygyny, you made me think twice. I don't love it yet, though. You guys also made me think that. With women's rights to the Islam to my sister, I'll be like, you sit down, listen. Y'all, when I should be cooking. What you cooking?
Hey, what you cooking?
I'll listen to the replay. Peace and love. Okay, oh, she did. Okay. Feel like sometimes, listen. Okay, just get okay. What? See sometimes. Okay, that's fine. All right. If Coach Nazir had not married Coach Nyla without saying, would Coach Fatimah agree to the second marriage?
Would I agree to it if you had brought it to me? That's what I think it means.
Oh, okay.
If I'm understanding the question correctly, you could give us clarification, but I take away from that if he had come to me about it, would I agree to it? It wasn't about me agreeing to it because he doesn't need my permission to do it. So I want that to be clear. He could have went on and did it anyway, but I would have appreciated knowing beforehand. So I'd have respected him more. And I wouldn't have lost so much of the respect I had built up for 15 years of him had he said something prior. But try to stop him, I don't do that. He's grown. And I'm not in the business of raising a grown man. And it's his right. Just like it is his right to pray the sunnah. It's extra, it's something that he can observe. It's an option for him. Just like other things. But to try to control that, no, but I would have been more prepared with my children. And that's where my resentment came in toward him, was that I resented him. I resented the whole marriage because nobody said anything. I'm married to him. I'm not married to Coach Nyla. So it was his job. But try to stop it, no, not at all. Not at all. That don't mean I would have stayed there with him, but I would have never, ever took that. I don't have the ability to take the right away from him. Let's get that together first. It's not my job to try to prevent or stop him from practicing the sunnah at all.
Now, I didn't learn until later that she had considered, remember you had mentioned to me that you had thought about polygyny, you didn't bring it to me, but you were thinking like, she's doing this and she's killing, different stuff and situations. So you actually considered her more of a second wife in polygyny, but just didn't bring that up as well. So that type of thing.
Well, my thing is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if he didn't bring it up, then I'm not going to volunteer anything. But I'm not, like I said, one thing about me is that I don't say everything out of my mouth. I don't think everybody should. But if I was looking at things, as my best version of me, then it just made sense to me. That's another reason why I was upset with him for not saying it, because if we had that conversation, then you should have talked to me. But we talked about this before. That's why we give you all best practices, because we all have been, hurt or didn't do the right thing maybe, or the best thing, or been our best self. So that's why we are telling you, try it this way, because we didn't. So we found that certain things worked for us and certain things didn't, and here's why. And please don't do that, because it will expedite things and maybe make it less difficult to go through.
Yep. I support Polly, but oftentimes it seems like people gang up on the first wife and question her as to why she doesn't want to be part of it. Yeah, really question the husband or the second wife. It might seem like to you, Sister Miriam, but for us and people that we work with and so on, it's usually the husband that may get questioned. Rarely, but it's mainly the second wife, because they're
I was gonna say I've never heard it the other way
the first
around.
wife. How come you don't want to practice poly? that really might be geographically where you located at, but that's not
it's
something that's
usually,
common, especially here. That's something that's ostracized. The second wife is usually talked down upon and called different names and all kinds of different stuff. The second wife is me, incoming wife. How do you deal with self-love in a polygynous relationship?
it's yourself. So
Well,
I
listen,
love what you do.
we
on
have something
Saturday.
called RMIC. Let's tell them about RMIC because
Yeah.
we have to wrap this up in a minute.
And
But
this month, we focus on self-awareness, and we actually go into that, focusing on self-love and self-awareness in the RMIC membership. You guys are not familiar with it, definitely check it out. outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship mastery. But we go live every month on specific topics, and we go deep. We train deep on it, the three of us. And those who are members, they actually have access to the recordings of the trainings, as well as worksheets and activities and challenges to do to create this better, outstanding relationship for themselves. And it's just amazing that you talk about that, because right now it's about self-awareness, it's about self-love, and we talk about that and how to do that, even in polygyny.
yeah, no doubt. Just like, we're gonna try. It's not a funny question, but it's a good question. But let's jump to the other one, which is here first. Again, relationship mastery is important because here's the deal. This is one of the reasons we also took it off our Facebook page that we were streaming from and going to our Facebook group. Again, we wanted to be smaller. We want to see who's willing to go ahead and join our private Facebook group. We can ask questions. We can pop in. We can talk to you directly because you're more serious than the average. And it's okay to be curious and to learn some things and stuff like that. But we don't strive to be average. We want to be outstanding. That's the whole point of our, outstanding brand. Average is the top of the bottom or the bottom of the top. So we want to be more and better than that. So that's why we have the Relationship Mastery Inner Circle program. Okay, and another, we have another program for the ladies in particular, True Queens, that we're gonna be talking about, next weekend with Eid coming up and everything. And we'll be releasing that for the sisters that goes a lot deeper into these questions. So if you're serious, meaning that you're serious about concerned about the health of your marriage and your personal development, your growth, check in on that. Sis, when we live, come on now. No messages. Okay, the question, I support poly, but oftentimes it feels like people, I just said, do you have a feeling? Good questions, hey, good stuff. Now put question marks in front of it so we can get to it, because we are gonna wrap shortly. Did you not have a feeling like the new wife or incoming wife would be new and special for him, and does he still like me or something like that? Basically insecurity, basically I had a feeling so much. Is that normal? I'm assuming that's addressed to Coach Fatimah. And yeah, short answer is yeah. That's
Is that for
yeah,
me?
yeah. It's for you, but it's also for clients that we work with and everything else. We
Yeah,
know,
got it.
So indeed.
Yeah, I can address it. There's a certain degree of that, but that for him part is important. Just because something is for him doesn't take away from me loving me or me being special. So that's important, that we don't lose sight of that. Of course you're gonna go, okay, I've had everything thrown at me that new. The second wife comes from a place of privilege, like she came and took the husband away from the first one, whatever. And I'm older than Coach Nyla. So I've been hit with all three of those. One thing I like that my mother said, and she's not the wisest woman I've met, but she is not a dumb woman. She said, we don't look like what we've been through. Has much to do with, going, okay, this is life, it is what it is, but I didn't take away from being unique, because I feel like I am. And I don't take away from the fact that if it wasn't for Coach Nazir and I, there would not be all of this. But that's to say that Allah put all of it in place. So if I'm a vehicle, if Coach Nazir is a vehicle to get to 10 children, and my co-wife is a vehicle to get to 10 children, then that's what had to happen. So it's coming to grips with and understanding the importance that Allah puts things in place that He wants to see follow through. And He'll use me first with 7 and my co-wife with 3 more, and 2 of our really amazing bonus babies. That's how it had to look for Coach Nazir's life to be his life. It took the 2 of us. So when you come to that understanding, you have so much peace after that, because you know it's Allah's will, period. And you can't fight it, you're not gonna win.
Indeed, alhamdulillah. Nice, Coach. Fast, I guess you're very well yourself. Husband identity, she really helps people practice religion. Thank you for the kind words. Kathir, let's jump to Betsy and come back to the, well, we can say, has polygyny strengthened your relationship with Allah Ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa
That's a
ta'ala.
good question. Say, your co-wife.
Yeah.
That's a deep question.
I think, I don't know if like I said, has polygyny strengthened our relationship with Allah. It's just going through life, period. And polygyny is a part of my life. So, yeah, you know, if I have any issues, I think because I don't single out polygyny as some different part of my life that I need Allah for, you know, I don't look at it that way. That's a great question. It's just that it's a part of my life. So everything is a part of my life that I need some type of assistance with, I, you know, go to Allah for. And that's what I thought about when I first became Muslim anyway. So that hasn't changed. It's just, I continue to go to Allah because I was in a different place before Islam. So now it's like, hey, any type of issues, that's where you go. So yeah.
I think that's what I love about the 3 of us being here, is that we all have different experiences. For me, it's the opposite. So it is key that it is part of your life. It's a piece of it. It's so true. But at the same time, I think Allah put things in my life, in my timeline of my life, if I look back, that would put me closer to Him. So the first one was my grandpa dying suddenly, then my sister dying, then my brother-in-law passing away, then, you know, different health challenges, then polygyny, then what else is in the future, I don't know. My daughter, having issues with my oldest daughter, who's now a part of my life, and she wasn't for a little while, but she's grown, very grown. But it's these different instances that were so powerful in my life where I kept going, I need Allah, I need Him, I need Him. He doesn't need me, He doesn't require me. But He knew for me, for Fatima, reminder I'm here, reminder I'm here, reminder I'm here. And it would bring me closer, because when you don't understand something and it's difficult for you, you pray more, you pray harder, you pray extra. So for me personally, that was just one of those times in my life when there was a slap from Allah that said, don't forget me, I'm here, and I'm winning. So that was a powerful moment. So it's a special thing for me to be in polygyny, because it's a constant reminder of, remember that time 10 years ago when you were starting to not be where you needed to be mentally, and Allah gave you a reminder to refocus on Him. That's just one. So it is indeed a part of our lives, just a piece, but it's my reminder.
And my answer would be yes. Just because the amount of the bounty and the lessons that come from that. And one of the reasons, if you look at it, and I mentioned the other day when I uploaded a video regarding why I married more than one wife, is, you know, which of the blessings of your Lord would you deny? You know, again, which of those blessings? I don't want to deny any of those blessings, but the amount of reward and benefits and goals when it comes to legacy and future generations. I didn't come to Islam to just have it for one generation, then it'd be gone. That's not the point. Not at all. I want my children to be till Yom Qiyamah, you know what I'm saying, on the right path. So, you know, we're working to be intentional and align with our values with respect to that. And that's the most important part, period. So, it gets to the question. 2 questions. One is, I don't know why certain first wives take an elitist attitude.
Good question.
Second, she gives some meaning behind it. It's not really a second question, but it's a meaning behind it saying, it says, she built her man. No sharing or depriving a second of her rights, sense of entitlement from the first wife. So yeah, why certain first wives taking the leader's attitude? I'm gonna take a stab at this first. One is an elitist attitude. One, well, we're humans. We always deal with competition. Period. We dealt with it in racing. I race, I got first ribbon, I got the second ribbon. I'm first, therefore I'm better. Type stuff, right? Because if you got a blue ribbon, if you stand number one on the podium with the gold medal, 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remembers, right? So just that type of thinking. But in general, because she's been there longer, already usually has things established, and if it has a family, then there's children already there. So these are things to be grateful for, to have a healthy pride for, if you will. So it'd be natural. The challenge is when it spills over to being arrogant and disobedient. You know what I'm saying? And that happens. I mean, we have people sometimes say, well, he can marry another wife, but she better recognize who I am, and I'm this and this and that. Yeah, she already recognized who you are. You're already married, and then she's already likely insecure about the amount of time you already have as a husband with your wife, and knows that can't really compete on that level, because that's time you can't make up. You know what I'm saying? Coach Fatimah and I, we were married 15 years before I decided to practice polygyny. Now we're married 25 years. With Coach Nyla and I've been married 10 years. So she knows that there's 15 years that don't apply. But does that mean you're less than, or Islam gives you the equality, Islam gives you that. So we have 7 children together, then we have 3 children together, right? Is she gonna go on about, well, I have 7 and I'm this and that because I have his
7. So
you know what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna go on.
It's an immature mentality to act like that, but sometimes people give it whatever to pump themselves up.
Give it whatever meaning they want to have.
So if they're insecure, they're reaching and grasping for many things to make them feel, many outward things to make them feel better. And one of those things is, well, at least I'm first. I have them to myself for all this time. Now you would never have them all to yourself. You have them with me. This type of thinking, like I talk about, when you graduate high school or whatnot, or graduate, you have all these years and different things, and you have a syllabus. You have these quizzes. You have these tests. You have to make certain grades in order to pass. But emotionally and mentally, what are you doing to pass to the next level? So we have adults at 30 and 40 years old who are at 10, 12, 14-year-old mental and emotional levels. Some are still being held back by different traumas that have occurred to them. Some have just never studied and been involved in personal development. This is one of the main reasons we talk about RMIC so much. Because at $77 a month, I mean, we can't say fill our vehicles up twice with that amount. But what are we doing for our families? I mean, we pay that for our internet bill. So how much are you investing in your marriage to work on every single month on you to make sure you're growing personally and you're developing into yourself? And if you don't see value in that, and it's not some hard sale, but if you don't see value in that, that means you're likely not reading any books, going to different seminars, and investing in your marriage better. And it's easier just to go to YouTube, get something, get a little inspiration, forget about that, go to the next thing and pick and choose this big buffet instead of focusing on what you have in front of you. Okay, so that's the immaturity thing. So people, when we talk about, that's high school stuff. Like, you're really arguing about that right now? You have children in the marriage and you headed toward death. Dude, every time I look in the mirror, and I'm looking right now toward these gray hairs coming, Allah is giving me signs like, you're not gonna be surprised when that angel of death comes. You headed that way, right? We all are. So in knowing that, we have to mature. We have to recognize that, like a lightning bug or a firefly will flash once. That's our whole thing of life. It's fickle, it's simple, it's fast. So it's really immature. That whole elitist thing is immature. No matter if you're talking about in your family, if you're talking about that with your ethnicity or anything else being elite, you are a slave and you will obey, knowingly or unknowingly. You have a choice to obey on certain things, but you will obey. Your body, your soul is going to come up out of it. Your soul is going to separate from that body. You're going to obey. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality. So being an elitist and all that, and yeah, we're talking right now after 10 years in chapter 10 from a place of privilege because we had to go through the stuff. If you're looking at the grass being greener on the other side, it's probably because they had a whole lot of fertilizer they had to put and deal with on that thing first and deal with the stank in order to get it there. But are we willing to go ahead and deal with that to get our grass greener is the question. So anyway.
And it's just, let's, we like to say first, second wife all the time. There's third wives and there's fourth wives. This can happen within the second and the third wife. I've seen that. I've coached that. Where the third one thinks she's all at the bag of chips, and the second one's triggering. The first one don't care, because she been through it. So she's like, well, she got to go through what I went through. You know, it becomes this thing. But I think as women, we just need to stop that period, because I'm going to speak for myself. I believe I'm old enough to do that. But I don't want Coach Nazir to be so important to me that I lose my man over him, period. Because when I'm being judged, I won't care about what he did right here. I care now because he's here and I can see him. But I remember my grandmother told me something. She said, he gonna meet God for himself and you gonna meet God for yours. Which means his sins are his, mine are mine. And we won't care about the other ones' sins when we're being judged. So why should we get to this point where we care so much that we're willing to lose our amen for a man that happens to be our husband? We better think about this stuff. We better think about it and quit acting like we're better than everybody else, because we're not better. We just were here first because Allah wanted it that way. So it was. But we don't get to use that to hurt somebody else.
All right, cool. We're about to wrap this up. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure.
Come on,
Tell about your podcast.
Yeah. Incredible. It's really, really great, guys.
Oh my God. I was going to say
CCC podcast.
CCC podcast, yeah.
If you want to get a secret season and whatnot for y'all podcast, what's the name? Tell them the name.
Candid
How y'all-
Cowives We thought you was going to do it.
I'm CCC's around.
Right. It's Candy Co-wife Conversations, where we talk about all things through the eyes of co-wives.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
See, that's a sign. You need to go get that podcast.
So make sure you go to outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/CCC podcast. You get the secret season. That's only available by registering.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
Podcast.
Not the secret sauce, the secret season, y'all.
And then you also get, go to the site, and you will also see where you can get you are able to listen to that's how you know we're live.
Right.
You get to listen to the latest podcast as well. So check it out.
It's really great. It's really
Cool. Good stuff. All in all, we appreciate you tuning in with us for over an hour on this hot, at least where we are, day. So we're gonna celebrate our youngest, my youngest biological daughter. She's grown now, so big job in front of me as of Ali. And as you can hear, Selecta Booger just came in for us in our part of the world. We appreciate you. Make sure that you're connected with us now. Again, we have a private Facebook Live. We'll be going live throughout the week, kind of like this. Not at such a long time. All right, our private Facebook group is at facebook.com/groups/Let's Talk Polygyny, where we go live from there. But again, if you want to connect with us best, outstandingpersonalrelationships.com is where you find us. And if you're serious about becoming more as an individual, more as a spouse and as a parent, and really exemplifying being outstanding, then you want to check out our RMIC, so Relationship Mastery Inner Circle. Appreciate you all. Any last words to our GLC?
Yes, make sure you guys are always practicing GLC. Make sure you are growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. Inshallah, we'll see you on the next one. And make sure you check out those links we talked about. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.
These are some good questions.